I really believe that you can still make super high quality music using free VSTs, and because Labs by Spitfire Audio is possibly the most popular free virtual instrument of all time, I thought that I would pop on here and show you guys just one way that I personally like to spice up the soft piano preset in Labs, just to give it a little bit more of that premium feel. So let's hop right into it. The first thing we're gonna need is a simple drum track. So then we can go ahead and load up the soft piano, just the default preset right when you open up Labs. And right out of the box, I honestly think this is one of the best free VSTs out there. It's got this really nice warm sound. There's nothing to be too unhappy with, especially for the style of music that I make, but that doesn't mean there's not room for improvement or ways that we can stylize this to give it a little bit more character. So we're gonna do just that. But first, let's lay down a simple chord progression. All right, so I popped in, cleaned up the MIDI a little bit, but right out of the box, you can hear that the Labs piano sounds decent, but let's see if we can't spice it up just a little bit. So something I've been experimenting with a little bit lately is obviously sending Labs to a mixer channel. And then the first thing on my effects chain is OTT. It's a free, extremely powerful compressor. It's called OTT. It means over the top multi-band compressor. So default preset, way too aggressive, but you can sort of get a feel for what it's adding when I leave it alone. You're gonna hear there's a lot more high end, a lot more hammer noise, and way more texture than what the Lab spits out by itself. So that's not the sound I'm personally going for. I could definitely see a context where it might be the sound you're going for, but personally I like bringing this depth knob down to somewhere in the mid 60s. Sometimes I'll go upper 60s, sometimes lower 60s, but let's try 65% depth. And then I'll leave pretty much everything else alone until I get really kind of into the mix and want to stylize it more. But I feel like this gives it a lot more texture, a lot more character, a lot more pluckiness. And sort of brings some of the things that the Lab's default sound sort of hides away. So at around 65, you can hear it's already really transforming the sound. So right away, I really like what that does to this. I think it gives it a much more like piano in a room feel. I'm actually gonna lower it just a little bit. For this chord progression, I think there's a little bit more motion and a lot more harmonic content. So around 59. Yeah, I'm liking that. Right there, we've already sort of really transformed the sound, but let's see if we can take it just a little bit farther. So another great free plugin to mess around with in these more like sound design applications would be Cymatics Origin. And so they've got a ton of really great presets right away. I like the subtle tape myself, but almost all of these are super usable and definitely have their application in a lot of situations. But let's try throwing a little bit of that subtle tape on and see what we want to play with to dial it in just right. So that ends up warming it up a little bit, giving it a little bit of motion, a little bit of that warped vinyl feel. So far, we've taken what sounded like this and turned it into this. But another really fun thing that I like to do that I think gives a track immediately a lot more ambience, a lot more size, is actually route this piano to a separate mixer track. You'll probably hear this referred to as a bus. So we'll call this verb. And I'll throw on my third favorite free effects plugin here, Valhalla Supermassive. So with these bus routings for the reverb, I end up going with something pretty large with a long decay and a really low volume. And you'll hear that it sort of immediately transforms the piano sound into its own pad that already naturally falls within the key and follows the chord progression. So let's find something pretty big. I don't know, Cygnus X1, I guess. Bring that volume down so that we're not blown away by it, and give it a listen. So one thing to watch out for with really large reverbs is that a lot of times you'll end up getting a lot of buildup in the low end that you probably don't want, because you want to make sure you're leaving room for the bass as you add it later in the track. So let's see what the reverb is doing to this signal. See, all this stuff below 100 Hertz isn't really something that you want to be ringing through the track. So I'll end up throwing a high pass EQ, just treat it like a filter, nice steep, maybe go up to like a 150 Hertz area, and just let that high frequency stuff sort of shine through a bit more. And sometimes, even depending on your mix, it might be a good idea to cut those signals out before they even get fed into the reverb, so that the reverb can be applying itself to only the frequencies you want. Excuse me. So we'll do that again here, maybe a little bit more of a subtle roll-off around the same frequency. And as I mentioned before, the OTT is adding a lot of this like high texture that I think works well for a lo-fi track, but maybe isn't always what you want, so don't be afraid to EQ that out. But in this case, I don't want the reverb to be sending all of that white noise through, so I'm probably also going to do a low pass that doesn't go quite as low. And finally, let's throw a little bit of stereo width on this here. So classic fruity stereo enhancer. Let's crank that a little bit in the positive direction just to widen it out and make this reverbed pad a little bit more spacious. So here, I think we've got something that actually already sounds really nice. I would love to have this into a track. But a couple other ideas that I think are definitely worth playing around with is adding some delay. So let's see what happens if we route this to another track and call this not the fillet, the delay bus. A free plugin I highly recommend for delay is Baby Come Back. And it's because it's got this built-in ducker feature where whenever your dry signal is playing, the wet signal will be turned way down. So let's just leave this on the dotted eighth and see what happens. I've got some triplets in there, so it might end up with some cool interacting rhythms. But let's bring that ducker way up so that it doesn't fight with the chord hits too much as those delays ring out. Oh yeah. So because this is ascend and we only want the wet signal, we're going to bring the dry signal all the way down so that this channel is only delivering the wet signal to our master. So let's just hear what that sounds like and maybe play with the settings as it's going. So I'm not loving the way the delays are interacting with this rhythm and this drum part in particular, but I hope you can imagine how that might be a useful tactic to try when you're trying to spice up your free VSTs here. So yeah, super quick tip for you guys this week. Just figured it might be helpful for some of you guys trying to make this sleepy lo-fi stuff that I happen to enjoy. So if you do have any questions or any ways that you like to spice up Labs Piano, definitely leave it in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, if you're looking forward for more, or if you have anything you want me to cover in the future, definitely think about hitting that subscribe button. We are currently on the road to our first 1,000 subscribers. So every single subscriber really does mean a lot and help me grow the channel and get this out to more people just like you and me. So anyway, I'm going to try to build this out into a slightly fuller loop or beat, and maybe at the end of this video, you'll see what I've come up with. So thank you for stopping by. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.